Hello everybody, welcome back to It's Current Year for another quick battle replay. I am playing the Greenskins today. I'm up against Suave, who is playing the Beastmen. Suave, quite a good player. I've had a few good games against him. And a matchup that, even previous to Silence and the Fury, I think was actually a reasonably good one for the Beastmen. And this was just a quick battle game. It wasn't an ent ladder or anything like that. So always good to come up against good players on quick battle as well. Suave generally does play quite meta lists, and I think both the lists here that we'll go through them are quite competitive. But for Suave's forces, number of units of Gore Herds with the shields up the front, backed up by just cheap Ungor Spearmen. On the flanks, we have a bit of a mixture, some Tuskor Chariots and some Razor Gores and Harpies. So very mobile force, a lot of unit diversity here, which I like. There are also a number of the same types of units on the other side, Centaurs, Harpies and Tuskor Chariots. So going to have to do some ducking and diving with my stuff to keep them out of harm's way. Bray Shaman of Wild over here coming in with, looks like Bray Scream and also Trader Win, as well as the Jagged Dagger, just a really good hero. Obviously the Chariot means that they can plow through infantry quite efficiently as well. A Jabberslath, which is a pretty cool addition, but quite a common addition in this matchup because Greenskin infantry is obviously quite powerful, and leading the force is Torox, the Brass Bull. He is coming in with pretty basic kit. This is how I like to take him pretty much as well. Brass Body and Slaughterer's Call for the AoE. So that's the Beastman force, quite a nice one. For myself, we have a number of Spider Rider archers, as well as the Goblin Wolf Rider archers on each side. Again, I also have the same on this side, Spider Goblins and Wolf Goblins. So some poison. Goblins in the front, very cheap. They're here just basically to get mauled by Gore Herds. Savage Orc Big Guns, 4 of them. Quite good in this matchup because they're very good against other infantry just based off their stats and their hitting power. But they also do have it's pretty good leadership for Greenskin standards, as well as a slight anti-large bonus. We've got a couple of Snotling Pump Wagons. Couldn't quite afford Orc Boar Chariots, so I decided to just go, this is probably the only part of my list that I wouldn't consider quite meta, but yeah, we'll see how they go. Goblin Wolf Rider, just general unit in the back, just for some backline sweeper. And for our sort of main hitting core, we have a Giant. We have a Goblin Big Boss. I was expecting Torox, so I took this guy basically just for they need stabbing, armor, and a melee defense buff. You can layer that on top of Brass Body, and it does sort of mitigate the melee defense buff that he gets from that, and obviously debuffing his arm is always nice. Great Goblin Great Shaman up on the Spider. Looks like he's about to fire out a Vindictive Glare, no doubt at this Chariot. But his kit is, quite standard. We'll see how much damage that does in a second, but don't even try it for some damage. Arcane Conduit, as well as Itchy Nuisance, Vindictive Glare, and Sneaky Stabbin'. Obviously, the Spider is a bit of a terror as well in its own right. So some nice damage right off the bat, and yeah, the Beastman forces are going to clash with mine very, very quickly. I'm staying quite tight. I'm not going to get pulled out of position too much. Okay, and the Savage Orc Big Guns are going to come into the fight. Now, they'll do pretty well against Gore Herds. Unfortunately, suffering a bit of a charge here, but this actually is, even with the charge bonus, you see, it's not actually a great fight for the Centaurs. The Savage Orcs will even that up quite quickly, but the Tuskor Chariots are ploughing in, and the main sort of pit fight down here, we see a number of buffs on Torox the Brass Bull, Brass Body, and as we said, also they need stabbing down. So his melee defense is obviously pretty juiced now that the they need stabbing has worn off, but in the back line, my lines are just in chaos. The Harpies are coming down. I'm trying to basically just screen with the Goblin Wolf Riders, sacrificing them to the Centaurs. They will lose that very convincingly to allow my forces basically to trade places with the Beastman line and pull through the back here. They are going to get caught up a little bit on just the amount of unit models that are around here, but we've done a lot of damage to Torox. The pump wagons probably haven't done a whole lot. I think there's another unit of them around here somewhere. They were chased off pretty quick. But War is going down, so we're not getting we've got some good buffs at the moment, and even with this terror of the Jabberslath in and amongst the lines, will keep us in the fight thanks to immune to psychology. Mind you, Savage Orc Big Guns obviously having a frenzy buff, still quite healthy at the moment, so they're still immune to psychology. I believe the Chariot Shaman has copped another Vindictive Glare. So he's looking pretty beat up. He basically doesn't want to go anywhere near any of the hero core here. The Giant's just having a fun old time. And there's another Vindictive Cloud. That's why Chariot characters are quite risky against factions like the Greenskins. Also the Vampire Coast can do it as Vampire Camps and Coast can do it with Gaze and Nagash. But this is where the money's at the moment. And this little big boss, he is showing what he's made of at the moment. Taurox is really struggling. He's actually routing at the moment, has a lot of his own troops to pull through, which is fortunate for him. But we're just keeping our heavy hitters together. We've still got obviously a lot of Savage Orcs, 53 here. We've got another unit rotated around somewhere in another fight, I believe. It did get sort of chased off. Yeah, so still 50 over here. They'll come back to the fight. But this big pit fight at... obviously, we see the Mortis Engine effect here. He's going down by the Jabberslath because they are below half leadership. So we're taking some decent damage there on our Orc boys, and they will actually get terrified now that they have lost their immune to psychology. But Taurox at the moment is in a bit of strife. Another Vindictive Glare, I think, will get tanked by a number of the Centaurs. Probably could have finished Taurox off. Only 600 HP left. He may have another brass body up to be popped, but we're just going to come down and get a rear charge into these Harpies, try and force them off. They will terror out extremely quickly with the presence of the Spider. Trying to just split my terror up as well at the moment. The Giant's reasonably healthy. He can take on Taurox there. Taurox has just bounced off him for a second. The Ungors are really... They're sort of pretty inconsequential, to be honest, over here. And again, this Goblin Big Boss has just taken every opportunity to try and bully Taurox. Unfortunately, he's kind of trapped in at the moment amongst the spears. We take a bit of an overarching look. We have actually managed to stabilize some of our mobility. You know, we've got some Forest Goblin Spider Eyes, more Forest Goblin Spider Eyes. Probably need to get them over here so we can just poison the main infantry fight. But Taurox is really, really battling. He's on his last legs. The Spider's healthy enough that you know, we can finish him off. And even with sneaky stabbing going down on the Goblin Great Shaman, the Jabberslath will pull some wrestling moves, but I don't think it's going to be enough at this stage. Taurox does go down. I think the Giant may have landed the last blow because the Goblin Big Boss has been caught up amongst the Ungor chaff over here, and that will be the game. I think that was just about it for the Jabberslath. He was looking very beaten up, but a nice win. A bit of a pit fight there with all the single entities bouncing around one another. But a pretty fun game. Like I said, two pretty standard lists. I don't think there was too much pushing of the meta here, besides maybe the pump wagons. You don't see them very often, particularly with the strength of Orc Boar Chariots at the moment. But yeah, some big monsters here. I mean, the Greenskins still are susceptible to terror. The Jabberslath does, does see some play in this matchup because it does help sort of even the infantry fight. Greenskins not noted for their leadership, and even amongst stuff like, I mean, even Black Orcs and things like that, because they're immune to psychology and won't terror out, they stay in the fight, and if you can put damage into them, which you can do with, I guess just the burst damage potential of the Beastmen, the Mortis effect can just take effect for longer without them running away. That's one of the reasons why this unit can also kind of struggle here, because as soon as stuff reaches a point where it's taking damage from the Mortis Engine effect, it's generally in terror route range, and then it leaves the fight and stops taking damage. It walks out of the AoE kind of naturally without any micro attacks for the Greenskin player. So some okay damage value there. Obviously, it also has great attack animations for killing infantry. So as per usual, you know, not a lot of kills on the Tuskor Chariots actually, but yeah, very mobile force. Taurox is very standard here, obviously. You know, Trader King, Grey Shaman. Probably you need to give the Chariot up here, just because, you know, the Goblin Shaman on the Spider, from what I've seen, is quite a common pick here. And with the elevated position on the back of the Spider, you know, Vindictive Glare is at a really good angle of attack to abuse the sort of the Chariot hitbox or the multiple hitboxes. So yeah, pretty good value on the Goblin Shaman. Great value on the Goblin Big Boss. I think he costs, on a Spider mount with just They Need Stabbing, I think this guy comes in at about 650 maybe. And he's debuffing there, and just little bits of shankings mean that Taurox has had a pretty tough time. Goblins die, that's what they do. Although 2 units getting 400 damage value back. Savage Orc Biggins, struggling to get their cost back, but they stay in the fight, and with Frenzy obviously keeping them from terror out and things like that. You know, they hit well against infantry, but they also hit well. They countercharge things like Centaur as well. You know, if you can mass pin in Tusk or Chariots, they can kill them quite well also. And then obviously the obligatory skirmish cav, which kind of had a tough time here because Suave has taken a very mobile force. And the Giant just capping off a pretty solid day from the single entities on the Greenskin build here. Yeah, but this was a fun game. Obviously, like I said, Suave's a good player. I've played a few sort of series against him. And generally plays quite competitively, so it's good to come up against that sort of, you know, a good opponent playing a good list sometimes on quick battle as well. You know, even though I've been having a bit of fun with some slightly more flavorful builds recently. Anyway, cool game. Thanks for checking it out. And we'll be back with more soon. Take care.